close your eyes for a second. I want you to think back in your career, in your life, the history of your life so far. Think about one thing that really made you feel proud or really happy, ecstatic, overjoyed. What was it that you achieved? What was it that people were saying around you? Well done, high five, hugs. Think about a moment like that. And when you have, open your eyes. Okay? Thinking about achievements of our past isn't something that we typically do. You know why? Because we brush it aside and we go, yeah, that's the past now. Yeah, let's move on to the next thing. Let's do the next thing that we need to do, and the next thing, and the next thing. And the reason why we do that is because as humans, we always want to grow and be more and do more and add value. That's built in us. The top two human needs are growth and contribution. The more we grow, the more we can add value, the more we can contribute. So it's no surprise that when you have achieved something, you go, oh yeah, let's go on to the next thing. But what I want you to do is reflect on moments of your past where you have achieved certain things. It might be you finished a project on time, you completed your course, you play sport and you won, and it was all down to, your point, whatever it may be. What was it about that moment that made you feel so good, so happy, so joyful? And that's the thing, right? It's the feeling that it leaves you with. And now think about, what skills did you actually use to achieve that very thing? If it was a project that you needed to complete, it was attention to detail, it was making sure, you've done things on time, it's time management, it's being able to network. And for me, if I think about a project that I had to deliver, it was all about, I had to build relationships effectively for something that I was embarking on that was new. Nobody knew me, I didn't know them. I had a deliverable, and what's the quickest way to get to know people? It's through building relationships. So think about skills that you used to achieve what you did. Have you done that? All good? All right. Now, when it comes to achievements, you might get to an interview session, right? And that's when you start to think about, what are the things that I have done that are great? What are the things that I've done to make a contribution that I want to share? That, that would describe who I am, that actually describe what I want to do next. Now, what I want you to do is think about a defining moment in your life. A defining moment is a moment that can go in one direction or another, depending on what you are deciding on. Like if you went for option A instead of option B, your life could have been completely different. For me, it was deciding to move back to Australia. That was a defining moment for me. Why? Because it was impacting me, my career, my kids, my marriage at the time. And if we decided to stay, my life would have been in a different direction. I wouldn't have met all the people that I did when I had to get back into the recruitment sector. I didn't know anyone. I wouldn't have known what I'm capable of doing in a setting where I had to start from scratch. I had to really dig deep and go, oh gosh, I don't know if I could do this. The self-doubt creeps in, the imposter syndrome sitting on my shoulder. That's a defining moment for me. I decided, so what actually allowed me to do that is the next column, which is big decision. So whilst you're thinking about your defining moment, it connects to big decisions. So think about a big decision that you've made over the last 12 months. And what I want you to think about in this case is, what's the process that you used to reach that conclusion? You didn't just decide like that in a heartbeat. You probably had conversations, you did a bit of research, you explored, you really thought through, you paused, you put that decision aside for a second, it was too overwhelming, and then you came back to it. But what you did do in the end is you created a pathway to get to the point of going, you know what, I'm going to do this now. I've arrived. Then it's decided in a heartbeat. Now, if you want to, does anyone want to share an achievement, a defining moment, or a big decision? If not, I can give an example of one of mine if you don't feel comfortable.
Yes, I can change. I can. Can you hear me? Is it working? Okay. I can share late achievement. I got married.
Yep, fantastic. Yep. So one of the key achievements in your life was when you got married? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Fantastic. And think about the joy, the happiness, the feeling of pride. And what was it about getting to that point? It was you showing up in a certain way in a relationship, you deciding on being a better version of yourself and, embarking on staying with someone for the rest of your life. What does that show? It demonstrates skills of loyalty, commitment, perseverance. See how like skills can really come up if you think about it? They probably are also skills that you take into your work environment. And if they're the things that give you joy and happiness, they're the things that you want to do in a job that's going to give you that happiness. Thank you for sharing your example, Mohammed. Anyone else?
For me, it was dedicating myself to starting jobs for humanity and leaving everything else behind. That was my key moment.
Yeah, and I know I've got a cheat code because I actually know you, Roy, but you definitely have a mission in mind. And the skills you have of bringing people together as a community to make things happen. You love that. You enjoy that. You want to do more of that. And it's not that just the essence of, oh, yeah, let's bring everyone together. It's what value you can bring. And not only doing it in a small way, but you want to do it in a big way. So you're going to want to do more of that. That's a key achievement already. And the skills that you're using to drive that, you're going to want to do more of that. So the community, bringing everyone together, choosing innovation to create, a scenario of how can we do things better for people. So these are the things that you need to start thinking about when you're embarking on whatever it is that you're deciding to do, whether it's, you've decided to create a business, or you're running a business, or you're wanting to embark on a new role somewhere. You need to actually understand what your skills are, what brings you that joy and happiness. You don't want to have to show up to an interview or a conversation and you're waiting for the other person to validate your skills. You should be aware of what your skills are. And then it should be more of a conversation about that. So doing this activity will help to bring that out. And the reason why I also highlight defining moments, because when we face adversity, and I'm not going to sit here saying I know what it's like to be blind or to be neurodivergent, but I know what it's like to be a solo parent and the challenges of saying, okay, I have a job that I want to do, but I also have some humans that I need to support. The defining moments are moments when we really have to dig deep into our mindset, into our experiences, and decide on something that's going to move us forward in a positive way. We may have come across a decision that didn't take us to a positive outcome, and then we come to a point where we want to make that change. That's a defining moment. And that shows you also what skills and attributes you have, what resilience you have. And the beauty of this is, if you're starting to jot them down and you're starting to converse about them more, no matter what happens when you do show up at a network event or at an interview setting, you will be able to tailor it to the conversation, to the person that's sat across you. And the essence of this is the first stage of you owning your career, owning your life. And that's important. I will reiterate once again the empowered self. The self-evaluation is all about figuring out your traits, what values come up for you. For Mohammed, loyalty, commitment, perseverance. For Roy, it's community, innovation, bringing people together, adding value, making an impact. What has made you proud? What has made you happy? You're going to want to do more of that. What brings you excitement? What brings you fulfillment? What gives you satisfaction? And then thinking about the skills that are connected to that. What did you use to achieve these things that have given you that feeling? It was, in Roy's case, innovation and communication, strategy, operations, technical nous. And then doing that leads to you feeling that empowerment for yourself. It's knowing your personality, knowing you are trusted, knowing who you show up in or show up as in work, knowing what your superpowers are, and knowing what you love and doing that. Now I want to take you that extra step further, because the number one person in your life you need to invest in before anyone else is you. You can create a plan for yourself. If you create a plan and you feel empowered to do so, you have a certain goal and mission and outcome, you will achieve it. So the first stage that you did was the self-evaluation stage. That activity that I got you to do is the first stage that I take people through. Start to articulate, what is your story? I gave my introduction earlier. My name's Jo McCassie. I'm the founder of Protoscience. I love to help people get ahead when it comes to their career. Short and impactful. That's my profession story. So whether I go to a barbecue or a networking event, or I'm interviewing, or I'm doing a workshop like today, think about how you want to come across. That's what stage 2 is. And then the third stage is your personal brand. Your personal brand is what you want to be known for, what people say when you leave the room or when you leave the conversation. It's your value proposition. And guess what? Every one of you individuals out there has something unique to give. You know why? Because there's no other person that is you in this universe. That's what makes you unique and authentic. And it's about you understanding what is your value proposition and stepping into that. And the way to showcase that as a job seeker is your CV, your LinkedIn, or other social platforms. People are starting to use TikTok and Twitter. But as a recruiter, I know that the first thing that recruiters look at is a CV, and the second thing is LinkedIn. So you can start with those two. It's okay. So that's all about knowing how to pimp it up. Pimping up your LinkedIn profile a little bit more so it really showcases your skills. And there's no perfect CV, by the way. There's no perfect LinkedIn. It's all an iteration. What you need to do is just start from where you are and start to tweak and iterate. And we have separate sessions, I think, coming up, or we've already had, where we're specifically targeting how to enhance your LinkedIn and your CV. So that's stage 3. And then the fourth stage is, okay, have any of you actually created a job search strategy? Not just going and, doing a Google search and seeing what roles are out there. It's also, like Roy had suggested, it's reaching out to recruiters and using a specific message and getting in touch with them on a daily. It's networking. It's showing up to workshops like this. It's who else do I know in my network? It's a myriad of things. So coming up with a search strategy encompasses all of that. And then we move on to the 5th stage. By this stage, you're like, gosh, there's a lot that goes into it. You're actually probably already doing this anyway as a job seeker. I'm just helping you understand how amazing you are in creating this for yourself. And, doing it as a roadmap makes you feel like you have a sense of accomplishment along the way, which is really important, because you can really lose faith in, I don't know what's happening in the market. I'm not hearing back from anyone. I'm not really being successful with these interviews. I need help. This is how you can help yourself and lean on others. The 5th stage is all about finding your voice, and it's not necessarily about singing. It's about showing up interview ready. So when you get to an interview, it's more like a conversation. So I take people through the essence of what to expect in an interview. But not only that, it's practicing certain questions that really showcase your skills. And then you have a toolkit of answers that you could really refer to because you've practiced them in the past. And I'm not saying you need to remember it word for word. However you say it on the day is however you say it. You might stumble with your words, but you know your achievements that you want to share that showcase your skills because you practiced. And then the 6th stage is about having a plan. You know what a plan does? It gives you dates, goals, deliverables, activities that you could really break down on a weekly basis or a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, so you don't feel like, you're overwhelmed and you're not in control of the situation. Even planning just week by week to start with, that's so powerful. On a Sunday, that's what I do. What do I have to achieve for like the week ahead? And it's not a tick box exercise. No, it's what are the things that are important, that are a must. They're the things that I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to prioritize. That's what a plan does. Because you could pick 50,000 things, but are they a must? And then the last one is, well, how do you continue to do this on an ongoing basis, not just when you're a job seeker, when you are still actively employed, but you still continue need to network. You still want to grow. You still want to make a contribution. Sometimes when we join a business, it's not for the long haul. It's for a short stint. So this is how you can really invest in yourself. And I just wanted to give you some inspiration around that. And just, yeah, to let you know that tick, you've completed stage 1.